Order. Good to go.
We'll be recording. Okay, the meeting for the Protection Welfare Committee for Monday, February 26, 2018, in room 207 is now in session. Members present are Alder Zima, Alder Galvin, and myself, Alder Scannell. Alder Dorf is sick, and so she is excused from the meeting.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Alder Zima, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Alder Galvin to approve.
Second.
Second by Alder Zima. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. On to the meat of the meeting. Number 4, consideration with possible action on an application for a Class B combination license by OMG Kim 3 Inc. at 1342 South Broadway, currently Packer Stadium Lounge. Staff
Law Department has no objections.
We would concur, the police department concurs.
concurs.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Alder Zima.
Second.
Seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. And before I get too far now, everything we do here at the committee level is just a recommendation to the council, which will be meeting next Tuesday, correct? Yes. At 7 o'clock in the room next door, and then that the council makes the final approval. So, item number 5, consideration with possible action on an application for a Class D combination license by Alejandro Gonzalez Rico at 1906 University Avenue, currently Las Brisas. Staff?
Law Department has no objections.
Police department concurs.
This isn't a new license, then, or is it somebody else taking over, is that what it
Yes, it's currently Las Brisas.
is? And they have a license.
Yep. So it's not a new license.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Alder Zima.
Second.
Second by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item number 6, consideration of possible action on an application for a Class B combination license by Tenet LLC at 2475 West Mason Street, currently RH and JD Inc. Yeah?
Law Department has no objections.
Police department concurs.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Alder Zima.
Second.
Second by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. On to number 7. Consideration with possible action on request by Alder Zima on behalf of the Brown County Tavern League for the Protection and Welfare Committee and the city consider their concerns regarding procedures now in place to obtain a liquor license in Green Bay. Alder Zima, do you want to start with this?
Well, I think we can open the floor. I think the Tavern League expressed best what their concerns are. And,
Okay.
you know, the rules kind of flip around back and forth and upside down, and I think they'd like us to consider some changes in the rules.
Okay.
But I think they'll best explain it.
All right.
I'll make a motion to open the floor.
Motion on the floor by Alder Zima.
Second.
Second by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the floor is now open. Anyone care to speak on this, please step up and give your name and address.
Susan Robinson, 821 South Broadway, Green Bay. I own Bourbon Street here in Green Bay, and I'm also past president of the Brown County Tavern League. Thank you to all of you for agreeing for this discussion tonight. We appreciate it. Thinking with the time here spent, all of you know, but it used to be how the liquor licenses were approved is they would apply, would go to committee, the police department would check for any past criminal violations or business violations, bring it forward to committee, and then the committee would decide, it would go to council for them to decide. We had at one time tried to pass a law against all-you-can-drink specials, and it failed to pass. And after that, it was decided to go with bringing the business plan to the police department and having the meetings with them before it went to committee. We're finding a little problem with that process because of one of the sheets that they're asked to fill out. They're saying this is a voluntary thing, but it is leading to the person that if they don't agree to all the items on this sheet, that they will not receive a liquor license. and we take a little exception to some of it. One of the items on there is no all-you-can-drink specials. This is something that couldn't be passed at city council, but yet they're being asked not to compete with their neighboring bars who have these specials. They're also asking to give up rights, like handing over videos without subpoena, being forced to buy expensive ID swipers. And I know, again, I know the police are gonna say this is voluntary, but it's not really when they feel their license is on the line. They basically feel blackmailed into signing these. So I guess our request is to look at maybe going back to a little more expedient, proper way of a licensing system. We feel our elected council should be the ones reviewing the business plans, and the police should go back to informing committee of their past criminal history or any past business violations. I think the police would agree with me that they have their hands full fighting crime, and to be constantly trying to find time to make meetings with potential business owners to decide who should get a license and who shouldn't, probably really isn't what their position should be. So, again, we'd like to see that go back to it. Instead of having this sheet with the check marks and the signatures, we were thinking maybe a sheet that suggests good business practices and warns them of the pitfalls that we've seen in businesses that have failed or have gotten in trouble with the law and had to come before a committee. And I made just a little rough draft of kind of what I'm talking about. Of course, you would come up with your own. If you'll just indulge me a few more minutes, I'll go
Take your
roughly
time.
over.
Take your time.
Okay. Over the years, City Council and the Police Department have seen many establishments end up with problems with the city, which can lead to the loss of your liquor license and/or your business. In order to help new businesses avoid these issues, we have compiled a list of the common pitfalls that seem to lead to this. Number one, intoxicated bartenders. Most of the successful bars that have remained in business for a long time in Green Bay do not allow their staff to drink on duty. An intoxicated bartender frequently makes mistakes like not checking IDs properly, not keeping order in the bar, not getting bar closed in time, and uses poor judgment on who should not be served anymore. Number two, teaching staff how to properly check IDs. Common error by bartenders is thinking that if someone hands you an ID, they must be of age, and they don't even read it. Underage people know this. The City of Green Bay frequently does compliance checks to see if your staff is carding properly, and the fine for failing is, and you can fill that in. If you want to play it safe, we suggest you invest in an ID scanner. Number three, practice responsible serving. Make sure your staff knows about Green Bay's do not serve list. These people are a constant problem for the police when they drink and not good for your business. If someone comes in obviously over intoxicated, know that it is illegal to serve them. If someone has had too many, do not let them drive. We urge you to beware of specials like all you can drink that encourage people to overindulge. We also strongly suggest you join the local Tavern League and participate in the Safe Ride program, which will give your customer a free cab ride home if they are too impaired to drive. And number four, read and know the liquor license laws, which will be given to you with your license. Too many new proprietors do not, which leads to big problems. Belonging to the Tavern League is a great resource for questions on our state laws and keeping you up to date on changes to these laws. And that's just kind of, the general idea of what I'm saying. I think it's a little more friendly way of bringing new people into business in Green Bay. We're not stepping on any laws or rights, and yet informing them on ways other businesses have failed. And so that's pretty much what I have. I'll hand it over
Do
to
you have a copy of that?
Well,
you
it's
might-
pretty scribbly, but I could definitely type one up nicer and get it to
An
you.
email, okay, yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
Just before, any questions for,
Sure.
if you could please?
You think the police should go back to fighting crime?
I don't mean that they aren't fighting crime. I didn't mean that in a mean way at all. I just think they're short-staffed enough, and we have so many horrible problems out there. And I know from potential bar owners that it gets difficult for them to get an appointment with the police because they're so busy. I didn't in any way mean to suggest they're not fighting crime right now.
But do you think the police should then wait for a problem to happen and then react to it and solve that problem?
Are we solving the problem with this sheet that they're having them sign? I don't believe we
Well,
are.
I think if we did a study, I think you would find that the police response, or having to respond to taverns, have gone down significantly since we started this program,
Okay.
okay? Now, am I saying that's the silver bullet to solve that problem? I'm not.
Okay.
But I'm saying that the police department attended conferences, community police-oriented conferences.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Well,
whoa.
I'm
Questions, just questions
okay,
for now.
I'm sorry.
Just
All right.
questions for now.
All right. Were you the, in charge of the Tavern League when Vincente's was a bar?
Yes. And I was actually on protection and welfare when he was approved and did not agree he should be approved.
Okay. And how long did it take for him to lose his license? Or to have it finally
It's
taken away?
a few years,
How many?
probably, what, maybe 2 or 3?
It was
yeah.
over 3 years.
Yeah.
And liquidate?
I'm not going to comment on liquidate.
And do you remember the triple fatality that resulted from over-serving at liquidate?
Yes. And I am not in agreement in over-serving, and nor has Tavern
Okay.
ever been in agreement with it.
Okay, in the very beginning, you said that we tried to impose a rule where you couldn't have all-you-could-drink specials.
Mhm.
And you said that's not fair.
It was voted down.
Right, wait, you're saying that's not fair.
If
Okay.
your neighboring bar can have that special and you
Okay.
can't, I don't
You
believe
can't
it.
badger the,
I'm not badger, I'm asking questions. So,
Right.
well,
I'm getting,
when I ask this question.
excuse me.
Come on.
It's okay, let him ask.
I'll-
I'm not feeling bullied.
I know.
It's okay.
I'm trying to be a polite guy. If I'm not being polite, please, someone tell me. So, but then later on in your best practices, you suggested curtailing drink specials.
Right. And that's my thing here. I'm not saying we don't suggest to them good business practices
Right.
and put it in their mind as they're opening. But I do believe in this market, you can't have, this bar can have this rules and the bar next door has different rules.
I can certainly understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has to be on an even playing field.
Right.
I
And
certainly
that's
agree
what
with
we're
that.
saying, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Did you have any questions, or?
Well, I was gonna wait till all the speakers are ready.
Okay, no questions. Yep, yep.
At this point, no.
Yep,
I have
yep.
a couple of ideas.
Okay, yep.
My name is Don Meldy, 641 North Huron Street in De Pere, and I currently own Richard Craniums. I'm president of the Brown County Tavern League. And I'm kind of taking a backseat here to what Susie's saying, because she's been doing this for 14 years plus as president of the Tavern League. And I agree with the fact that there's laws and there's ideas and references on how you should run your business in Green Bay. And even though the law isn't like having the all-you-can-drink special, being able to tell people, hey, you shouldn't do this, is something that should be attached to the licensing, is something that you should suggest to people. Same as, you should have something to scan the IDs or be able to train your bartenders effectively. And that's something that I do in every Tavern League meeting that we have. I love training bar owners as to, things to do to kind of help improve your business. And what I'm looking for is more solidarity and conciseness in the application process. Simply just kind of following what she was going by there with the reference ideas that you should have to make your business more successful by running a responsible tavern. So,
Do you think that if we have a tavern that has security video and there's an incident there, so you think the police department should have to get a warrant to secure that video?
I personally would give it to them right away, but I don't know what the law stipulates on that. I just took over as president just a few months ago.
Sure. And if we have this stipulation here, did you have to sign the stipulation when you started your business?
No, I did not. So it's just something I would naturally,
How long have you had your business?
5 years.
Todd?
I might have had to.
I was on night shift at the time, 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
I might have had to. And once again, I work really well with law enforcement. If there's an issue,
Yep.
I don't know if there
I
was a
said
time when
document
this
tapes right
was
away.
stopped, I don't know.
Okay. All right. But, I mean, so you think businesses
They
ought
should,
to
they should know the
cooperate?
law, and they should know what they should do.
And they should follow.
Exactly, exactly.
And do you think consequences should then be, I mean, in my opinion, well, no, not in my opinion. Do you think that tavern owners should be held to a strict adherence to the state statutes?
Absolutely, it's the state statute. I also agree with what you were saying earlier, because I wasn't around back then when those taverns had those issues that you brought up. But I think that prevention is better than people asking for forgiveness. And I think that we should put the right tools in place to make sure that that's happening. And I think it's just kind of a gray area right now, that should people know the law and what they should do to make their business respectful in the community.
Okay. Would you think it'd be okay then? I mean, even though, say we went with Sue's suggestions, we have all these great suggestions. But someone walks in and says, I'm not gonna, I don't care. I'm not gonna read the law, I'm not gonna do anything, I'm just gonna do basically what happens.
That's something that I think should be in the hands of city council to make that decision on whether to advise them to have a liquor license or not.
Well, we grant the license.
Yeah.
Because there's no objection from staff or anything like that, and we start having problems there.
See, once again, that's my lack of knowledge on how the process works. I would suggest possibly being able to have them, if there's too many incidents, having them called back in to city
And they
council
can do that.
to go over their license again.
How many incidents are too many?
Good question. So many within a 30-day period, a 60-day period, 90-day period. I think there maybe even implementing a probationary period to having your license so that they run their business right away. These are ideas that I would love to sit down with city council and to be able to go over these ideas to see what would happen to move forward with a good process that everybody will be fully knowledgeable of.
Considering that alcohol is in essence a drug, and the people dispensing it, do you think that's a big responsibility?
Giant.
And do you think we ought to treat it like giving out a license to dispense ice cream?
No.
Okay. Do you think the
That's-
police department, who deals with that, should be in on those discussions?
I think them being here definitely helps a lot, and knowing what they do in the past and stuff also.
Right, because any one of the council members could be gone in 2 years.
Mhm.
And these are the guys that are stuck having to enforce it day in and day out.
And they do an excellent job of it.
Right, and we're the citizens,
Mhm.
who if they're tied up at taverns, they can't respond. So do you think that we ought to be spending a lot of time, the police department ought to be spending a lot of time with taverns?
It's a good question. That's something where I'd have to go back and look at the research and how it's happening now and how we can get things to happen in the future. I don't think it would be a bad idea to not keep police officers involved, just so that the license holder would know the laws and what people do to make their bar successful in the area and not have a bleeding between the two.
What if we had a license stipulation like this, but everyone had to have one? Would that even the playing field?
I think it may.
I mean, because I'm looking at one right here, Kim Glover.
Mhm.
Now, she didn't initial 1, 2, 3 of the stipulations here, and Todd, if I understand correctly, if she doesn't sign it, she's not held accountable to it.
No, the police department, we go out, our officers go out.
But should we save this for discussion?
Well,
Let's
so-
just do the questions now.
So I guess my question to you is, we're being told that they're being coerced or forced into doing this, but I'm seeing that she wasn't coerced. She didn't initial 3 of these stipulations. She can't be held accountable to
Yeah,
them. So I'm asking, where's the coercion here?
I don't know. And
Okay.
I'm once again, I'm fresh at this, but I would love to sit down and go over these concepts with law enforcement, with city council, and with Susie, and to be able to reach a formidable solution on the licensing process moving forward.
Okay. Do you know of anyone that's quit being, gave up trying to get a liquor license because of this stipulation?
Not personally, no.
Okay. So as far as you know, it hasn't prevented anyone from opening a tavern in Green
Not
Bay?
that I'm personally aware of.
Okay.
Once again, I'm very new at this, so I'm kind of learning as I go as well. But I want to know more about how this process works and be able to explain things better to people as I see them.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Can I make one more remark?
Certainly.
Just from
The
Bill's,
the floor's still open, please, go ahead, yep, certainly.
as far as like bringing up Kim, Kim has been on the board for many years for Tavern League, understands her rights and the fact that she doesn't have to agree to all those. Someone who's never been in the business or been part of Tavern League probably would not understand that.
Doesn't a member of the Tavern League, don't you guys advise them?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Kim is a longtime member, but somebody who's never been in the business before and is brand new to the business and brand new to this process would not probably understand that they don't have to initial and agree to every one of those
So,
stipulations.
I'm confused. I thought you guys reached out to these tavern owners.
Well, we don't get the applications before you do. They don't come to us first. So if it's somebody who knows about us, they'll reach out to us, and I've had people do that, and I've come down with them and talked with the police. But not everyone that's new knows about the Tavern Lake and knows about us, nor do we always know about them beforehand.
I just have one question then.
Yeah.
So if we just change the process a little bit, made sure that, it sounds like maybe be a little more user-friendly, give people a.
Yeah, I'm in
more of a-
no way thinking
and
the
maybe
police
tweak
should
some
be
of the
out
things.
of this process, and that's not what I've said here.
Mhm.
But I do think council should be back more into it, and I do think we're treading a little bit on loss here with this. When we're leading people to believe they have to sign these things and agree to them when they're not, it's not really legal to force them to do it.
Right, that's, I mean, like in the front end, be more user-friendly. This is what we recommend, this is the best
Right.
practice we've noticed, and this is, and
I
depending how
think
you.
all
wanna-
of it on there is good advice,
Uh-huh.
and they should be made aware of it.
Mhm.
It's just how it's being done.
Right, okay, yeah, thanks.
I have a question for staff.
Well, once we close the floor, is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this? Good. Motion to
Well,
close.
it's just, my, well, there's nothing to approve here right now. I just, I feel that the Tavern League, if they would specific write what changes they'd like to see take place,
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, whatever they happen to be, and then we handle them one at a time and discuss them one at a time.
But excuse me, so, this, I'd like to close the floor if we're done.
Well, I'm talking to them, and I'm just asking.
Oh, that's
If
okay,
they would
yep.
do that.
All right, yep,
Definitely.
yep, yep.
I think we should hold this, you should be specific about it. You've given us a couple of general ideas of what you feel aren't totally fair in your mind, and I guess what you'd like to see. And I think if you bring those forward to us, then we can handle them one at a time. And consider them.
Absolutely. We would love to sit down with council members or police and work on this together as a project.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, if you could write them up first and send it to the clerk's office, that could be put in our packet, we'd all get it, be able to study it and share it with staff, and then we
If
could,
you want to go through police first with it or something.
Maybe, yep.
Whatever, or the law department,
Okay.
and then bring it before the committee here, and I think then we've got something we can concretely respond to.
Very good, thank you.
motion to close the floor?
Motion to close the floor.
Second?
Motion by Alder Gavin, second by Alder Zim, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the floor is now closed. Alder Zim, I think your
Discussion. You know,
recommendation, but
there's a bartender's course. Now, are all people asking for a bartender's license? Are they required to do that, or just some voluntarily do it?
It's a requirement,
Okay.
both for a liquor license, for a retail establishment. We do have staff from clerk's office too that could weigh in.
Chris Teskey, City Clerk.
if you could just come to the front though, so the recording can pick you up.
Chris Teskey, City Clerk. Not every bartender has to take that class. If they have a bartender that is working and they have another staff member that didn't take the class, they can work under that person, but that person can't even go to the bathroom. They have to be there 20, the
Mhm.
whole time.
Mhm.
So you don't have to have every bartender licensed.
You have to have a licensed operator on premise though.
Yes,
So
but not
in order
every
to get your
single-
operator's license, you have to have the class.
So the bar.
You can be a bartender and not be a licensed operator, you just have to be under the supervision of a licensed
Licensed.
You
operator.
can have one operator and
Right,
non.
right, yeah, I'm aware of that, but
Okay.
but the bartender's class is just strictly for serving, it's not really the owners that,
The licensee, the licensee also has to,
The agent,
yes.
so every
They-
licensee
Yes, correct.
takes the class.
the person that's
Mhm.
managing, yes.
Yeah, okay,
It's a
that,
responsible beverage server training course.
Okay, and the majority of, probably what, 2/3? I don't know if you have any idea, Chris,
Oh, I'm sorry.
of, do the majority of them take that course?
We have a huge database of people that have, but we, as the clerk's office, don't know if somebody is there at all times that's licensed. I mean, I think the police department can answer that better when they go in and check.
Do you know under what set of laws are they, that they're required to, or is it just something?
Chapter 125, the state liquor.
Okay, so it requires it.
Mhm. To be a licensed operator or to have a liquor license issued to.
Well, it's just my thoughts, because of the remarks that were made, they felt that, almost, police is almost indirectly infringing on the rights of the owners to handle their businesses the way they want to handle them. So I was thinking, if there's a bartender course, well, maybe there should be a new owner course. That, that they would take it so they'd have a better idea of, and I like the idea of, the police department giving each applicant, I mean, people have been in business 20 years, obviously know how to run a business. But people that are new, people that are coming from a different area that may have different sets of rules than we do.
Anita does hand out a booklet to the new owners with discuss us.
Well, I'm just thinking there should be a little test with it maybe or something, because,
Or some workshop with it or something.
something, I think our goal is to, to have businesses run profitably and efficiently without causing problems for our police department. And alcohol's a delicate topic, because, if you take too much, it's trouble. But it just seems to me, if I hear them right, that they're somewhat disturbed that the police department and the city council is forcing them to do things that they're not really required to by law, and yet they're not really forced to, but if the police department doesn't give their recommendation because they didn't sign it, well, then to me, it's like a form of coercion. And I don't think that's the intent of it, but that's what it becomes in the end. I mean, you can't really tell people how to run their businesses. People take it to court, I think there could be a problem. But I do think that those are things that they need to know, that these are what causes problems. And my sense, and I've expressed this in the past, is that I feel anytime we're having problems with any tavern on more than just a once in a blue moon type situation, that the police department bring them in before the committee and we review with them what the problems are. Now, you like to have them educated ahead of time. But I think in the past, we used to do that quite regularly, and I thought it was a pretty good system. If somebody's getting, a lot of calls, a lot of police calls, or fighting, or whatever it is, even if a ticket isn't handed out, even if there are warnings, I think the police department, I think they should, and they have done this now, and we've done this a couple times, and I think we have to continue that, where we call the people in, and we have a face-to-face talk, and let these folks know how serious the matter is. And then if they don't have approval, they have to be aware that they can lose their license through a quasi-judicial hearing. So, if you've got things that you specifically want, I think we need to hear what they are and act on those individually as we receive their requests.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion that we hold this item until the Tavern League brings forward the specific changes they'd like to see, and then we'll handle them one at a time.
I'll second. I guess I can understand how perhaps through this process, maybe some new bar owners feel coerced, but I think on the whole, this is what we want as a committee and a council. We want business owners to be aware of what we're looking for, what best practices are, and if we don't think we're gonna get that, we're not gonna, I have no problem not giving them a license straight off. Why wait for trouble? So I think the process maybe need a little tweaking, maybe need a little, make people aware that they don't have to do everything on the list, but they better have some reasons for not, and then we could certainly, I mean, as Alder Galvin had pointed out, there were points not picked, and that's not a unique one. That happens quite often, where certain points aren't checked off and we still approve. This is just a recommendation, and we have the discussion, and then we approve generally. I don't know if I've never not given a license unless there was a felony or something along those lines where we couldn't.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just a month ago or so, we had a case where the gentleman didn't want to sign a couple things, and the department was not recommending,
Right.
the law department was not recommending that we give them a license.
Right.
And in retrospect, I think that was wrong.
Well, but they still ended up with a license, and I think that's
No,
the
they-
process.
They did not end up with a license. It was referred back, and then they had a meeting with the police department, and Sue Robinson was there, and she asked me to come along. And so and we had a very good talk, and then I learned that the police department had it thrown on their lap. That supposedly the council asked them that they should recommend or not recommend. Because it really should, the body that's supposed to do the recommending of having a license is Protection Welfare Committee. In other words, we're here to hear the facts. The police department needs to bring forward their concerns that they have, and then we hear from the applicants. And, they have to, I feel they have to have the right to run their business now. I appreciate that we want to do some proactive things to try to help people avoid pitfalls that inexperienced people fall into. And it's usually that's the case. It's always the inexperienced ones, sometimes the younger ones that do this. So anything that can be like a little course or something that they have to take, a little test along with it, those are all positive things. And that they go over it with the police department. What are good practices? These are the things that have kept businesses out of trouble. And then they come up here, but I mean, whether you sign on this or don't sign it, if the law says you don't have to, if they don't have a criminal background or something, I mean, who are we to say they don't have a right to run their business or have a license? I think it has to be on the merit of the person filing the case. So I'm for all the proactive stuff, but it can't be a condition of the license. It has to be voluntary. And of course, people who don't want to know these things are probably going to be problematic. There's a good chance they'll be problematic. But if they are problematic, let's get them before the committee rapidly, quarterly, or semi-annually, 4 or 5 that seem to be generating more police calls. I mean, anytime you're generating a lot of police calls, I think we should have them in and talk to them. So, and they need to, that's when we need to send them and say, okay, you're going to do some things to improve the situation. And that's going to be a condition, otherwise we may not recommend you getting your license next year.
Well, I see that as being the same process as only you've given them the license and now you're doing the same thing, you're putting conditions on it. I don't know why we can't do that from the get-go. Perhaps we need to soften the language as not a recommendation, but, or that the police has certain concerns and list the concerns, and then we could discuss it, and then the council can say yes or no. I think we have the right to deny a license if we feel uncomfortable with it from the get-go. So I think maybe if we just tweak the process a little, if we sit down and you come forward with your concerns, but I think
You want to comment for me real quick?
certainly.
I didn't create this process. Probably written by somebody that wasn't a cop, because there is some legal language in here. But what you talked about, Susan, was basically a lot of the questions on here, but just worded a little bit differently.
Right.
It's
So it's
about
not a
responsibility, it's not demanding somebody. I understand that. The way this process works is we're notified by the city clerk. I assign one of my community police officers for the most part to go out and meet with the new business owners. They sit down, they go over this plan, and we get it done pretty quick so it can come before this committee. So it's not really that much of a bother for us to do this, because we look at it like if we're doing something proactive, going out and meeting with these people and everything else ahead of time, that maybe we're going to avoid some problems at the end of it. And I look at this process as part of a bigger process which we've done here in Green Bay to really reduce the amount of alcohol-related incidents, whether it's drunk driving or crimes involving alcohol. And I think we've done a really, really tremendous job with cooperation from the Tavern League, the police department, the community, everything. I mean, if you look at it now, our no-serve list 20 years ago, or whenever it was created, was 6
huge.
pages.
Yeah.
It was 6 pages. Now it's about a half a page. And that's a credit to everybody.
Yeah.
Our drunk driving fatalities have really gone, I mean, one's too many, but they've really gone down ever since that tragedy on the Packerland Drive 2 years ago.
I'm, not to interrupt, I'm part of the Brown County Traffic Safety Commission, so I
Yes.
sit in on all those and they go
Yes.
over one by one.
And you know, when they bring the big bus out and they park it on Broadway and Walnut, and they have their mobile OWI center, I mean, I really think all these things, you have enforcement, you have community awareness, all these things, and this is part of it. I've sat at this committee for like a year or two, and I've seen people come up here and make their case, and we may be able to recommend or whatever, but the police department isn't the final say. I think we could work on this and make this language happy for everybody, but say the same things that are here.
Agreed.
And we can do that. But we don't want to run into a situation, like Alderman Galvin said, where we are giving out these licenses willy-nilly, and the police department are spending all their time at these establishments because there's problems over and over and over again. And a bad tavern is like a bad tenant. They're very, very difficult to get out. And that's one thing we don't want to do. We want to be, I know it's hard to believe to look at police like this nowadays, but we want to be proactive and avoid having to go in and arrest people and issue citations. We'd rather do the work on the front end. So I think that's what this is about. I think it's part of a bigger picture. And we're willing to work with anybody, but at the same time here, we want to make sure that, yeah, they're aware of these things. And one last thing about video. I don't think we ever want to come into an establishment and say, hey, you had a bunch of underage people in here last night, we got a complaint, we want to see your video. I don't think we've ever done that. But what does happen is there's crimes that happen outside of bars. A terrible one happened on Broadway.
We need the video right away.
We need the video right away, because if we don't, we're going to run into problems trying to solve these things. So for the most part, we use video to solve crimes that occurred. Some of them may have occurred inside the bar, some on the outside. And then one last thing. On the last thing of the agenda here, it says liquor law violation reports from the police department for February 26th. I don't think we have any. And the last couple meetings that we've had here, it's been one, maybe two, but it hasn't been a plethora of them at all. So that's a credit to everybody. So I think this is working, and if we need to change shall or will and these things, the words, well, let's sit down and get it done.
Would it be best for them to send their recommendations to?
I think send it to me or send it to the law department or something.
Send both CC the law department.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can give them the contact.
I mean, in the end, the police department only recommends anyway.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, and I think that's part of the process that we need to make clear, because I think some new people are thinking it's not just a
I
recommendation.
think you hit the nail on the head.
Right, and so, need to work, and I think there's some things that I would like to see, the scanners, those aren't very expensive now, right? Aren't they fairly?
Well, it depends on what you say is
Yeah,
expensive.
they're-
I mean, $800-900.
Oh,
I guess if I can get a word in there edgewise.
certainly.
I was the one that started
Especially
this
nickel.
process. And it was because I did a study that showed 80% of our officers were downtown. So that's entire city, 16 officers or more, were downtown Friday night, starting at 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the morning, Friday, Saturday night, into Sunday morning. They weren't out in the neighborhoods, they weren't fighting crime, they weren't doing anything. They were having to chase these bars that were given these licenses. And some of the very same members that constitute our council right now were the ones that granted it. And when the police department went to those very same people and asked for some help, they were ignored. And that's why the police department came up with the demerit point system, which never worked anyway.
Yeah.
But they tried several different ways to get the council to help them to shut down these taverns that were causing problems, and they weren't getting that help. And so the police department threw in the towel until we went to some of these meetings and we saw other communities were reducing calls for service. Everybody wants the tavern. It's like the perfect tenant is what? The one that never complains. They pay their rent, they do what they're gonna do, and you never hear from them, and they don't bother their neighbors. Perfect tavern, a place where someone can go and relax, have a good time, But it's those problem taverns that tear down everybody else. And you gotta admit that back in the day, Washington Street, Broadway Street, and there's been a few others throughout our community, have dragged down the image of our taverns. And yet, you seem to find some tavern operators can run a tavern multiple different places, different themes and everything, they never have a problem. And so these are the things that we wanted to do. Now, you can make all the suggestions in the world, and if somebody doesn't want to do it, it doesn't happen. And then if you run into a council that doesn't want to support that, then you just continue to chase your tail. So we started this, and it's been refined. Bill Bongle was even bigger into this stuff, understood it even better. He refined it even more to what it is today. Now, I think you'd have to admit, Sue, and, well, you've only been in for 5 years, so you don't know what it was like before. Our calls for service, Todd could admit, our calls for service on the night shift are greatly reduced, and I think in large part due to this. Could we do it better? Absolutely. But I don't want to have something misrepresented here, because what I've seen in council and in committee meetings, someone throws something up and they just leave it hanging, and everyone seems to think it's true. I don't think anyone's civil rights are being violated here, and I would ask staff, as part of this motion, to investigate that to see if we are violating anyone's civil rights with this document here. Also, if they see any coercion in this document, and I would ask if anyone has any complaints about that, I'd like to know about it. Alder Zima brought up the last gentleman that was here, and he was denied. Why was he denied? It wasn't because he didn't want to cooperate with this. In large part, it was because of his past history operating a tavern. In fact, we showed at the committee meeting, he was being untruthful with the committee at that meeting. And that's why I wasn't willing to give him the license. It wasn't because he wasn't, just because he didn't want to cooperate with this, but because he had some very serious violation, granted several years ago, but even now, he couldn't be honest about it. And he couldn't admit the truth, even when we had documentation here that he was being untruthful with us. I look at that as, if you're gonna lie about this, what are you gonna do going forward if we grant this?
Red flag.
So, again, like I said, I have no problem looking at this, if we can make this a little bit seem friendly or whatever, but again, you're dispensing a drug. That drug can have a very serious impact on individuals and on this community as a whole, and I think we've all seen what it's done to our community, and I think we have to be responsible when we grant this license. It's not a right, okay? It's not a right.
Oh, I agree.
It's something that when you have to be responsible with it, and there have to be consequences if you're not. And I just think that this thing, granted, the scanners were a heck of a lot more expensive when we started, but they're hugely useful in that they protect the tavern owner if there's ever a complaint. The video, the one guy I talked to from Wausau, his insurance went down because he had video. His insurance company said, yes, you've got that video, it's night vision, it's everything. It protects you from complaints about sexual incidents that may happen in bathrooms, fights, everything else. So there's good reasons to have these here, but I think to take it and throw it all away, I think that would be a mistake. And so if the Tavern League and the police department and the law staff are willing to meet together and pound out a document that doesn't violate civil rights, which I don't think it does, that it's not, they're not being coerced into it, but I think there has to be something there that people do have to sign this document, that they do have to initial these different bullet points if they're gonna follow. And if not, well, then you're on your own. So that's just my piece. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Anything else? Oh, yep, Alder Zima?
I still have some questions.
Sure.
But first of all, I want to disagree with at least half of what Mr. Galvin said. And I don't think we should retry the person who was asking for a liquor license a couple meetings ago that was denied initially, or at least, I don't know if it was denied, it was sent back. It was held, it wasn't given. And then it eventually was given. Our committee did give it.
Yep.
And I don't think the gentleman was treated very fairly at all on the initial. There was problems from something 20 years ago in the city of Green Bay, a single night that 3 different violations were given, and the gentleman moved on. He was given a license after that incident, had been renewed, so the council did not take the license away. They did renew it a second time, and then the gentleman moved to Howard, where he operated an operation for 13 years without a single violation, And then there were insinuations that he really took umbrage with, that were kind of coming from our police department. That, oh, they had a lot of problems in Howard, but when you go to check it, they can't get any confirmation of even a traffic call. So, it's a,
Well, let him finish.
You know,
Let him
Mr.
finish.
Galvin,
Let him
you went
finish.
on ad
Please go
nauseam
on,
here.
just please go on. I've called him to order.
I guess it depends on who's talking.
No, I called him to
But
order. Go on.
anyway, I don't think you characterized it 100% correctly. I don't agree with all that you said. Now I'm coming to my next question of the staff here. Are the things that are in the, like, there's one, they want people to get a ID reader. Now, I personally
Scanner.
wouldn't, scanner, I wouldn't open a business without one myself. I'd be too scared. But does the law say they have to have them?
State statutes don't. What state statutes do, they have their list of requirements that you need to have met in order to have a liquor license issued. And then they also delegate to municipalities and local authorities to have the authority to develop their own restrictions, requirements.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Yes. And so long as those restrictions and requirements do not conflict or are not contrary to state statutes, they are legal. And
Okay,
are,
let's take the scanner. There were a number of things that I think the Tavern League is concerned about. But we'll just take that one. Do we have the right to make a law that says that everybody who has a tavern license has to have a scanner?
so long as it's not contrary to state statute, yes, we would be able to. And my understanding is that I do not believe there's anything in state statutes that speaks to that, nor
So we could make that a requirement, you're saying?
by ordinance, correct, yes.
Okay, well, I think if the people, police department or the staff or whatever, if they want to suggest those things, then they need to be brought forward. But until they're part of our rules, you can't, I don't believe you can require people to have them. And, you know, I just want it to be clear. And if we have rights to make these laws locally and we put them on the books, then I have no problem with the police department saying, you've got to check off these things before you can open up your business. And I think that's the way it has to be done. Now, if that isn't the case, then we have to talk about it then. So it either is or it isn't. And I know things aren't always black and white. You have the letter of the law, you have the spirit of the law, and we're just struggling with it all the time. But the Tavern League, at least has said that they feel some of our requirements on the business plan are egregious. I've heard people say, how can they even require you to have a business plan? Every business has a right to run their business the way they want to, as long as they don't break the law, as long as they don't have fights, as long as they don't open after hours, as long as they don't overserve people, as long as they obey the laws. And so, I think it can't be halfway. It has to be either we're going to require things because we think it's important for our community and we put it on the books, or we can't require people. We can inform people, give them information, and maybe even have them take a test to get a license so that they at least know the basics of running a business. And maybe most of them maybe do, but some maybe don't. So, I mean, those are all things we can do proactively, but I think those are the things that have to be addressed. The things that they're objecting to, well, are they legal requirements or aren't they? Or if they're not, if we can make them legal, then we have to have a discussion of whether we want to make them legal requirements. And then put it on the books. But we just can't treat people differently, I think, so that's all I have to say.
Well,
So I guess we have a motion already, don't we?
yep. I've already responded to half of that, so I'm not gonna bother recapping. So I think we can take a motion to, we have a motion to, Tavern League work with staff, come up with a new
Refer back until
plan,
they
refer back.
bring forward their concerns.
Yep, yep.
Do you want to set a date or just when they're done?
I don't know.
I'll have it done within the next
I think
We can be ready
whenever
for the
they're
next protection
ready to
offer.
bring it forward, they can bring it forward. I don't know if we need to put a date on it, because then we just need to extend it, or if they're done before, we can take it, you know what I mean? So when they're done, we can do it, I don't think we need a date.
Right.
Maybe a prune. Forget it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries.
We'll receive and place on file number 8.
Second.
Staff has
no
nothing?
report, yes.
That's correct. Okay, motion to receive and place file by Zimmer, second by Alder Galvin, all in favor?
Aye. Motion to
Opposed?
adjourn.
No. Motion to adjourn by Alder Zimmer,
Second.
second by Alder Galvin, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Okay, good, good.
We have our board meeting tomorrow.
A little bit, yeah.
Get all of it.
I don't know. Well,